All right, let's talk about one of the smartest and honestly most important things happening in AI right now. If you've ever been wowed by what an AI can do, but then totally thrown off when it makes a simple, weird mistake, well, you're going to want to stick around for this. We're looking at a technique that's like giving AI an open book exam, and trust me, it is a total game changer.
Everything kicks off with a massive problem. And this quote, this isn't some theoretical what if. This is a real headline from a real lawsuit with very real consequences. You have an AI, supposed to be a helpful tool, that just confidently makes things up. This weird habit is one of the biggest challenges for AI, and it even has a name.
It's called a hallucination. You see, large language models, or LLMs, are amazing pattern matching machines. They've been trained on this huge but fixed snapshot of the internet. The key word there is fixed. They don't actually know anything or have access to live information. So when you ask them something they weren't trained on, they do their best to predict what a good answer should sound like. And sometimes that means just inventing facts from thin air.
And look, this isn't just about getting a trivia question wrong. We're talking about incredibly high-stakes situations. In a hospital, it could lead to a wrong diagnosis. On Wall Street, a terrible investment. For a company's customer service bot, it could completely destroy their brand reputation. For any real business trying to use AI, this level of unreliability is just not an option.
So, how in the world do you fix a problem like that? Well, you use a brilliant technique called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or just RAG for short. It's such an elegant idea. Instead of just letting the AI guess based on its old training data, RAG connects it to an external, up-to-date, and totally trustworthy source of information before it ever tries to give you an answer. The best way to think about it is this open book exam analogy. A normal LLM is like a student in a closed book test. It can only use what it crammed into its memory, right? Its knowledge is totally static, maybe even out of date. And when it gets a tough question, it might panic and just make something up. But a RAG-powered LLM, it gets to take an open book exam. It can look at the approved textbooks, say your company's internal documents or the latest scientific papers, to find the actual, verifiable facts before it writes down an answer.
Okay, so that's the big idea. But how does this open book exam really work? Let's get under the hood, because it's a pretty slick three-step dance.
So first, you have to organize your textbooks. You take all your trusted documents, break them down into smaller, easy-to-digest chunks, and you put them in a special kind of database called a vector database. Now think of this as a super smart library that doesn't just index keywords, it understands the meaning behind the words. Next, when you ask a question, the system instantly zips through that library and pulls out the most relevant little snippets of text. It's like flipping to the exact right page in the book in a split second. And finally, here's the magic. It takes your original question, tacks on that super relevant context it just found, and sends that whole augmented prompt to the AI. Now, the AI has everything it needs to give you an answer that's actually based on facts.
So that's the how. But what about the so what? I mean, what does this actually mean for businesses? Well, the impact on accuracy and trust is nothing short of a revolution.
Get this. Companies that put RAG into practice are seeing a 70 to 80% reduction in hallucinations. Let that sink in. That is a massive drop. By grounding the AI's answers in real data, you're basically eliminating the guesswork. And that is the absolute key to building AI systems that we can actually rely on.
Let's make this real. Think about healthcare, where being right can literally be the difference between life and death. With RAG, a doctor can ask a complex question and get an answer that pulls from the very latest medical research and that specific patient's data, helping them make a better, more informed decision on the spot.
And in the legal world, RAG is the perfect fix for that nightmare scenario we started with. It ensures that any legal research AI is pulling from verified case law, providing real citations you can actually click on. The risk of made-up cases? Gone.
And what about customer support? We've all been there fighting with a chatbot that doesn't know anything. Well, a RAG-powered chatbot can pull information directly from a company's live internal knowledge base. It can give you an accurate answer about your specific account or a niche product feature because it's reading from the correct, up-to-the-minute manual.
Now, you might be wondering, is this the only way to customize an AI? Good question. There's another popular method called fine-tuning, but they solve totally different problems. Think of it this way. Fine-tuning is about changing the AI's behavior, like teaching it a new skill or a specific personality. RAG, on the other hand, is about giving the AI new knowledge. So the big takeaway is that RAG is way more cost-effective and flexible for keeping an AI's information current. You just have to update the textbook. You don't have to re-enroll the student in school all over again.
RAG is already making a huge impact, but believe me, this is just the beginning. The whole field is moving incredibly fast, and what's coming next is even more powerful.
The future here is just wow. First, we're moving past just text with something called multimodal RAG. Imagine an AI that can look at an image, listen to an audio file, and read a report to answer your question. Then there's adaptive RAG, where the system actually learns from you. It gets smarter and more accurate with every interaction and piece of feedback. But the really big one? That's agentic RAG. This is where AI uses this retrieval ability, not just to answer questions, but to reason, to plan, and to actually execute complex, multi-step tasks all on its own.
And that brings us to one last thought. We started this whole thing with a simple idea, giving AI an open book to make sure it gets its facts right. But with these advances, especially agentic RAG, we're heading toward a future where the AI doesn't just read the book, it uses that knowledge to act in the world and, in a way, to start writing entirely new chapters itself. Now that is a profound change. Thanks for diving in with me.